Activists in New York and other city watchdogs are planning a press conference in the city today, calling on Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance to resign. Vance's office is being accused of a dangerous pattern of leniency when it comes to prosecuting high-profile sexual assault cases in the city, including recent allegations against Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein. Organizers of today's event are also asking for the DA's office to reopen an investigation into former Columbia University obstetrician Robert Hadden. Now, the allegations against Hadden came under renewed scrutiny last week when the wife of Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang publicly accused the former doctor of sexually assaulting her. So there are sort of multiple aspects to this story. But let us start with what is happening today. Who are these activists? What are they demanding today?
These are a group of women who are actually suing Columbia University for how it handled the case. But they've been criticizing Cy Vance's prosecution of Robert Hadden for years now. When we last checked in on this group, that included 17 women who were part of this lawsuit against Columbia. That number is now up to 47. And here's the thing. This doctor ultimately had a plea deal that only included 2 women in the case. And that's at the core of what they're angry about. And then what happened with Epstein was he was being charged by the office, and the prosecutor associated with Cy Vance's office said, we'd like him to be assigned the lowest level sex offender status. In New York State, you can be listed in the registry, but not in a way that you're found publicly. There's like this registry that like officials can access.
Wow.
But if I'm searching you don't show up on it. And that was what they asked for Epstein to be listed as. And the judge in that case said, no way. And in fact, kind of expressed, I can't believe I'm being asked this.
Right.
Here's the thing. That's actually the sex offender level this doctor has. That was part of the plea deal. He never served a day in prison. And at the time, the prosecutor's office knew of what they considered to be 19 possible victims. And of course, now we're talking 47. And not only did he not spend a day in prison, but he, to this day, is this very low-level sex offender where if I go online and I search his name, it doesn't show up.
You won't find his name. Sort of three-legged stool. There's a third leg, right? And it has to do with donations to Vance's office that are a little suspicious.
Right, and this has come up in every single case. And the doctor's case, the day of the most consequential filing in the case, and this, what would happen was, he was charged for 6 of the alleged victims, and prosecutors intended to introduce evidence from the other 13 that they knew about. And his lawyer introduced this filing. It was this massive, like 400-page document. I spoke to her about it years after the fact. She remembered it in detail because she worked so hard on it. And they wanted to oppose the other people's evidence. And that day, her office made a donation to Vance's office, a small one, only $250. And then after the case was dropped, her and her colleagues made another $3,000 in donations. Now, this might seem like a drop in the pot, but there is a pattern here. In both Weinstein's case and Epstein's cases, they had attorneys who made donations to Vance's office.
Nearly 30 women have now accused movie mogul Harvey Weinstein of sexual harassment or assault. His studio fired him. Politicians and Hollywood actors have denounced him. Now a New York DA is defending a decision not to prosecute him.
Under growing pressure, Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr. explained today his decision to not prosecute Weinstein for alleged sexual assault.
If we had a case that we felt we could prosecute, and my experts felt we could prosecute against Harvey Weinstein, we would have.
The case stems from an incident back in 2015 when model Ambra Badalona Gutierrez went to New York City police after she claimed Weinstein groped her. Due to the 2-year statute of limitations on misdemeanor sexual assaults, Weinstein could now never be charged criminally for what he allegedly did to Gutierrez.
That's what we knew in 2017, and now we know no pardon can save Manafort in New York. I am very excited to tell you about our exclusive guest on this topic. Dan Alonso was the former chief assistant district attorney for Manhattan under, yes, Cy Vance, the DA who filed these bombshell charges today. Dan was Vance's right-hand man, or if you're a Law and Order fan, we could say he was the Jack McCoy to Vance's Adam Schiff. Thank you for coming on The Beat tonight.
My pleasure.
What does it mean that you have the DA going at charges like this after someone has just finished getting their federal sentence? Have you ever seen a case like this when you were in the office?
No, I would call this very unusual for the DA's office to follow a federal conviction or a federal acquittal for that matter. The reason generally is because New York's double jeopardy laws are very strong, and so it would be very unlikely. Also here, it's not like there was some obvious miscarriage of justice. I mean, I think here probably what DA Vance is thinking, as you've said on your earlier segments, is that in case Trump would pardon Manafort, that he'd have these charges hanging over his head.
Right, and you haven't spoken to the DA,
no.
But you worked with him for a long time. You're saying your view is he knows this is an extra step, and he may be taking it in order to deal with and counter a potential abuse of the federal pardon power.
Stressing that I don't know that directly from the DA, yes, that would be my very strongly educated guess.
How would you rate the likelihood of prevailing, of getting Manafort a conviction in New York?
Putting aside the double jeopardy question, which he has that as a potential defense, the case is a slam dunk.
A slam dunk?
Yeah, Manafort pled guilty to essentially these charges in federal court. He allocuted to them, and he also admitted that he was guilty of the counts that hung, where the jury didn't reach a verdict. So Manafort has already admitted the underlying facts underlying these charges. So he is going to be relatively easily convictable.
You're basically saying that one of the star witnesses against Paul Manafort in the New York case is Paul Manafort?
Clearly.
How does Cy Vance look at this? Because Bob Mueller has a very different national reputation and awareness from being special counsel to beforehand. Cy Vance is not the special counsel. He's not looking at all aspects of 2016, but he is now the first person as a prosecutor outside of the federal system to take up charges against a prominent Trump aide. Does he know he's just started what might be the biggest case of his career?
Cy Vance is a very smart and very careful prosecutor, so I think that he knows this is a very important case. I don't know that he would agree that it's the most important of his career. He has lots of important cases, and I think it's a mantra in the Manhattan DA's office that Mr. Morgenthau used to say, that every case is important to the victim. So important case for sure, but I don't think he would say to the exclusion of lots of other important cases that he has.
Interesting, again, because you worked with Cy Vance, who everyone's learning is now picking up where Mueller left off with Paul Manafort.
Well, let's talk about Harvey Weinstein then for a second, because he's now facing three charges against three separate women here in New York. Of course, he's also being investigated in London. We've got more than 70 women have come forward around the world, including some of the world's biggest names and actresses. Do you look at the news of the past year and think, how did I miss that?
There's no question that just as my opinion evolved on issues of low-level prosecutions, I think a prosecutor has to be open to evolving in all aspects of the work they do. I frankly was not aware of the extent to which workplace sexual violence existed. And perhaps I should have been, but I think I and a lot of other prosecutors did not understand the full scope of it. I think this was really actually, frankly, a revelation to many of us in America, perhaps not women who were surviving these assaults, but I think it was not known to exist at the extent that it did. Certainly, the Me Too movement has made that much more clear than ever.
The Manhattan DA is now under fire for refusing to prosecute Weinstein after he admitted groping a beautiful Italian model in this police surveillance audio tape in 2015.
Please, I'm sorry, just come on, I'm used to that. Come on.
Are you used to that?
Yes, come in.
No, but I'm not used to that.
DA Cyrus Vance Jr. was mobbed by reporters who asked whether Weinstein's wealth and fame influenced his decision not to press charges.
If we had a case that we felt we could prosecute, and my experts felt we could prosecute against Harvey Weinstein, we would have.